Scooby-Doo 2, Monsters Unleashed, released in 2004, brought back the core cast from the first live-action film, each of whom brought a specific energy and dynamic to the beloved characters of the Mystery Incorporated gang. These actors came from diverse backgrounds with unique portfolios that shaped their interpretations of these iconic roles. In this page, we explore the main actors, Freddie Prinze Jr., Sarah Michelle Gellar, Matthew Lillard, Linda Cardellini, and Neil Fanning, delving into their careers before and after Scooby-Doo 2, what they contributed to the film, and how their involvement affected their professional journeys. Freddie Prinze Jr. portrayed Fred Jones, the fearless and confident leader of the group. Before taking on the role, Prinze was already a prominent figure in the teen heartthrob era of the late 1990s and early 2000s. His breakout role came in the slasher film I Know What You Did Last Summer, 1997, which he followed with its sequel. His romantic lead performance in She's All That, 1999, cemented his status as a go-to actor for youthful romantic comedies. In Scooby-Doo 2, Prinze had the challenge of bringing a traditionally straight-laced animated character into a three-dimensional live-action portrayal. He infused Fred with a mix of determination, slight vanity, and genuine heroism, creating a version of the character that could lead a group while also being subject to comedic flaws. While the role allowed Prinze to connect with a younger audience, it also limited his opportunities for more dramatic work afterward. His career shifted more into voice acting and behind-the-scenes work, including roles in animated shows and as a producer and writer for WWE, highlighting a pivot in his professional path post-Scooby-Doo. Sarah Michelle Gellar, who played Daphne Blake, brought a sense of independence, toughness, and feminine strength to a character who had long been stereotyped as the damsel in distress. Gellar was already a household name by the time she stepped into Daphne's purple boots, primarily due to her iconic role as Buffy Summers in Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Buffy showcased her dramatic range, martial arts training, and ability to lead a series, all of which she brought to Daphne. In Scooby-Doo 2, Gellar's Daphne is a far cry from her cartoon counterpart, showcasing fighting skills and leadership abilities that updated the character for a modern audience. Her chemistry with Freddie Prinze Jr., who was also her real-life husband, added a layer of authenticity to their on-screen relationship. While the Scooby-Doo franchise didn't drastically alter Gellar's career trajectory, it reinforced her as a versatile actress capable of balancing action, comedy, and emotional depth. After Scooby-Doo 2, Gellar continued to work in both film and television, often in projects that drew on her earlier image as a strong female lead. Matthew Lillard's performance as Shaggy Rogers was perhaps the most widely praised among the core cast. His uncanny vocal mimicry, physical comedy, and genuine affection for the character resonated deeply with both longtime fans and new viewers. Before donning Shaggy's green shirt, Lillard had already demonstrated his comedic and dramatic range. He gained early attention with his role as the eccentric and intense Stewart in the horror classic Scream, 1996, followed by turns in movies like SLC Punk and Hackers. His take on Shaggy was more than an impression. It was a deeply studied performance that captured the essence of the animated character while grounding him in a believable, relatable reality. Lillard's commitment to the role was so strong that after the passing of Casey Kasem, the original voice of Shaggy, Lillard was chosen to take over in the animated versions of Scooby-Doo, a role he has continued to this day. Scooby-Doo 2 played a pivotal role in cementing Lillard's legacy as Shaggy, and it opened the door for a long-standing relationship with the franchise that extended far beyond live-action films. Linda Cardellini, who played Velma Dinkley, brought intellectual gravitas, warmth, and subtle humor to a character who had often been relegated to the role of the nerdy sidekick. Prior to Scooby-Doo, Cardellini was best known for her role as Lindsay Weir in the cult television series Freaks and Geeks, a show that gained critical acclaim but was short-lived. That role showcased her ability to play emotionally nuanced characters navigating identity and social roles. In Scooby-Doo 2, Cardellini redefined Velma by adding layers of insecurity, romantic longing, and self-discovery that weren't present in earlier interpretations. Her performance in the film stood out as both heartfelt and comedic, creating one of the most relatable versions of Velma to date. While she continued to work steadily after the film, including in Mad Men, Bloodline, and later in Dead to Me and the Marvel Cinematic Universe as Laura Barton, her role in the Scooby-Doo films contributed to her reputation as a skilled actress capable of transforming seemingly one-note roles into emotionally rich performances. Finally, there is Neil Fanning, the Australian actor and voice artist who provided the voice of Scooby-Doo. Though not seen on screen, Fanning's contribution cannot be overstated. He voiced Scooby in both the 2002 original and the 2004 sequel, blending warmth, humor, and heartfelt emotion through digital animation. While Fanning was not widely known prior to this role, his work gave the CGI Scooby a recognizable, lovable personality that stayed true to the original voice work of Don Messick. Fanning's performance helped ensure that Scooby-Doo remained the emotional heart of the film, grounding the supernatural hijinks in friendship and loyalty. Although Fanning did not continue in the role for future animated features, his portrayal in these live-action films became a benchmark for how Scooby could be represented in modern cinema. Together, this cast brought a renewed sense of life to characters that had long existed only in animation. Their portrayals helped bridge generations of fans, from those who grew up watching the original Hanna-Barbera cartoons to new audiences experiencing Scooby-Doo for the first time in a theatrical format. Each actor brought their own style, career experiences, and personality to their roles, contributing to a film that, while aimed at a younger audience, carried performances grounded in sincerity and effort. While not every actor went on to reap critical acclaim immediately following the film's release, their participation in Scooby-Doo 2 became an enduring part of their legacies, especially for a generation who came of age during the early 2000s. Scooby-Doo 2: Monsters Unleashed offered its main actors a chance to explore familiar territory with a fresh twist. It gave them space to balance nostalgia with modern storytelling and comedy with emotional authenticity. Whether it was through career pivots into animation, returns to dramatic television, or continued involvement in family-friendly media, the film undeniably marked a significant chapter in each actor's career. These performances, though wrapped in CGI monsters and campy humor, continue to be fondly remembered for their heart, sincerity, and respect for the source material. Scooby-Doo 2: Monsters Unleashed may appear at first glance to be a simple family-friendly sequel, but it holds a curious place in early 2000s pop culture. Released in 2004, it served as a bridge between generations, blending nostalgia for those who grew up watching the original cartoon with a glossy, contemporary cinematic experience aimed at younger audiences. The cultural impact of the film goes beyond its box office performance or critical reception. It reflects a period of transition in entertainment, technology, and social values. From shaping early 2000s aesthetics and humor to influencing fashion trends and internet culture, Scooby-Doo 2 carved out a unique legacy in the pop culture landscape. One of the most significant cultural contributions of the film lies in its reimagining of classic characters for a new era. By updating the personalities of Fred, Daphne, Velma, Shaggy, and Scooby while retaining their core characteristics, the movie honored the source material while inviting new fans into the mystery-incorporated world. The characters were no longer just Saturday morning cartoons. They became fully realized people navigating relatable insecurities, friendships, and social roles. This shift played a role in popularizing the trend of reboots and adaptations during the 2000s, signaling that older properties could be modernized for younger viewers without losing their essence. This helped pave the way for the numerous reboots and gritty reimaginings that would dominate the next 2 decades of Hollywood. In terms of social impact, the film subtly challenged some of the stereotypes associated with its characters. Daphne, traditionally seen as the helpless beauty, was reinvented as a martial arts expert and assertive problem solver. Velma, the intellectual of the group, was portrayed with romantic and emotional depth, moving beyond the nerdy psychic archetype. These portrayals contributed to a broader cultural conversation about gender roles in children's media. While these changes might not have been overtly political, they mirrored early 2000s efforts to create more empowered and multidimensional female characters in mainstream entertainment. Scooby-Doo 2 also holds a place in the ongoing evolution of CGI and digital characters in live-action films. The character of Scooby himself was entirely computer-generated, interacting in real time with live actors. While not the first film to blend CGI with live action, it contributed to the normalization of animated characters sharing the screen with human counterparts. This kind of visual integration laid the groundwork for future films that would increasingly rely on digital performances and green screen environments. In hindsight, the visual effects of Scooby-Doo 2 mark a transitional period between early experimentation and the sophisticated CGI worlds we now see in modern franchises. Another cultural facet of the film lies in its fashion and aesthetic. The costume design and set pieces reflect a distinct early 2000s style: bright colors, exaggerated accessories, layered clothing, and quirky patterns. These elements unintentionally served as a time capsule of that decade's youth culture. As Y2K aesthetics made a comeback in the late 2010s and early 2020s, Scooby-Doo 2 was often cited online in fashion retrospectives and memes, particularly highlighting Velma's transformation scene in the film, which went viral many years after the movie's release. Clips of her makeover circulated widely on social media platforms like TikTok, Twitter, and Instagram, leading a new generation to rediscover the movie through a contemporary, meme-based lens. Speaking of memes, the film found a surprising second life in internet culture. Fans began remixing scenes from Scooby-Doo 2 into humorous or absurd memes that amplified its campy, over-the-top tone. Matthew Lillard's Shaggy became especially meme-worthy, with jokes centered around his exaggerated expressions, vocal inflections, and supposed godlike powers. The Ultra Instinct Shaggy meme, which originally took footage and inspiration from the live-action Scooby-Doo movies, imagined Shaggy as an all-powerful being using only a fraction of his power to fight monsters or defeat villains. This meme caught fire in online forums and led to fan petitions to include Shaggy in fighting video games. It was a bizarre yet fascinating testament to the film's enduring cultural presence. Additionally, Scooby-Doo 2 arrived at a time when conversations around representation in media were becoming more prominent. While the cast remained predominantly white, there was a broader awareness starting to grow around how media shapes perceptions of identity. Although the film itself did not break significant ground in terms of racial or cultural representation, its popularity and accessibility made it part of a broader media landscape that would later face calls for more diversity and inclusion. In that context, Scooby-Doo 2 serves as a snapshot of Hollywood's slow but ongoing transition toward more representative storytelling. There's also a nostalgic layer to the film's cultural footprint. For many millennials, Scooby-Doo 2 became a defining piece of their childhood media experience. It was shown frequently on cable TV, aired during holiday weekends, and became a staple in family DVD collections. Its humor, visual flair, and simple but heartfelt message of friendship and self-acceptance resonated with children growing up in a rapidly changing world. That nostalgia has fueled fan content, cosplay communities, and merchandise sales long after the film's original release. In fact, cosplay inspired by the characters saw a notable increase in popularity at comic conventions and online during the late 2010s and early 2020s, further reinforcing the film's cultural reach. The movie also fits into the larger historical narrative of early 2000s cinema. It came out during a period marked by an influx of family-friendly blockbusters, including other adaptations of cartoon and toy franchises. Films like The Flintstones, Garfield, and Alvin and the Chipmunks tried to capitalize on a similar formula, but Scooby-Doo 2 managed to stand out due to its self-aware humor, energetic performances, and commitment to honoring its roots. That blend of reverence and modern flair made it a touchstone in discussions about how to successfully adapt animated material to live action. In education and media studies, the film has been analyzed for how it navigates identity, teamwork, and the power of collective effort. Scholars and critics have noted how the movie subtly explores themes of public perception versus private reality, especially as the mystery incorporated gang grapples with their reputation and self-worth. The film's villain, who seeks revenge against the group by exposing their flaws and past failures, offers a cultural metaphor about the dangers of hero worship and the expectations placed on public figures. This aspect of the narrative has invited interpretation as a commentary on the nature of celebrity and the challenges of maintaining authenticity under scrutiny, an issue especially relevant in the age of social media and public branding. The making of Scooby-Doo 2, Monsters Unleashed offers a fascinating glimpse into the complexities of adapting a beloved animated property into a live-action feature while balancing high expectations, advancing technology, and the quirks of ensemble filmmaking. The sequel to the 2002 hit Scooby-Doo, the production of Scooby-Doo 2 was marked by creative ambitions, technical challenges, and collaborative energy among cast and crew. It also unfolded at a time when Hollywood was experimenting with digital effects and hybrid storytelling, making it both a logistical challenge and a creative opportunity. The film was directed by Raja Gosnell, a director known for his work on family comedies such as Big Mama's House and the first Scooby-Doo film. Gosnell brought a light-hearted and comedic sensibility to the project, which was necessary given the film's mix of slapstick, mystery, and monster chaos. His direction emphasized physical humor, bright visuals, and fast pacing, all while maintaining a respect for the original source material. Gosnell's approach to the sequel was rooted in giving more room to character development, which is why Scooby-Doo 2, unlike its predecessor, focused more on the gang's interpersonal dynamics and their public image as crime-solving celebrities. James Gunn, who would later go on to direct the Guardians of the Galaxy films, returned as the screenwriter. Gunn's involvement was key in balancing the movie's tone between kid-friendly antics and subtle adult humor that often flew over younger viewers' heads. His ability to write sharp, quirky dialogue helped the characters feel both contemporary and rooted in their original incarnations. In interviews, Gunn has mentioned that many of the more layered or edgy elements of his script were softened to fit the family audience Warner Brothers was targeting, but traces of his voice remain in the script's wit and occasional satirical jabs at fame and media. Filming took place largely in Vancouver, British Columbia, which was a popular filming location at the time due to its tax incentives and versatile urban and natural landscapes. Many of the interior scenes, such as the Colsonian Criminology Museum and the gang's high-tech headquarters, were constructed on sound stages. The design of the museum, a central location in the film, was particularly ambitious. It featured replicas of classic Scooby-Doo monsters from the original animated series, meticulously recreated for fans to recognize and appreciate. The production design team drew heavily from Hanna-Barbera's visual library, ensuring that longtime fans would feel a sense of recognition while newcomers would find the exhibits visually engaging. The creatures and monsters, however, presented a much greater challenge. The sequel significantly upped the stakes in terms of visual effects, requiring a larger team of VFX artists to animate the numerous ghouls, ghosts, and phantoms that terrorize the city. Unlike the first film, which focused primarily on a single villain disguised as a monster, Scooby-Doo 2 brought back a collection of villains from the animated series, including the Black Knight Ghost, the Tar Monster, and the 10,000-Volt Ghost. These characters had to be reimagined for a 3D environment while preserving their original designs. Animation studios Rhythm and Hughes and Tippett Studio were brought in to handle the CGI, blending creature design with live-action integration. This required extensive pre-visualization work, motion capture testing, and constant communication between the effects teams and the director. The character of Scooby-Doo himself, voiced by Neil Fanning and rendered entirely through CGI, was again one of the most technically complex aspects of the film. To help actors interact convincingly with a non-existent character, the production used stand-ins and props, including a full-size Scooby doll and tennis balls on sticks for eye lines. On-set puppeteers and performance coaches helped the actors respond with appropriate timing and spatial awareness, especially in scenes involving physical comedy or emotional connection. The challenge of syncing the voice, animation, and physical performance of Scooby was ongoing throughout production, requiring careful post-production editing and sound mixing to make the interactions feel organic. The costume and makeup departments also had their work cut out for them, particularly with the film's more theatrical characters and villains. The Black Knight armor, for instance, had to be both visually imposing and flexible enough for fight choreography. The costumes for Mystery Incorporated members remained faithful to their cartoon roots, but they were given more texture and modern detailing for the big screen. Velma's iconic orange turtleneck was subtly redesigned to reflect her character's evolving self-confidence, while Daphne's purple and pink wardrobe blended martial arts functionality with glamour. Costume fittings and makeup trials were constant during the pre-production phase, as the filmmakers aimed to strike the right balance between cartoonish and realistic. On the set, the atmosphere was reportedly lighthearted and collaborative. Given the cast's history of working together on the first film, many of the principal actors had already formed strong bonds, which made for an efficient and often humorous work environment. Matthew Lillard, in particular, was known for staying in character between takes and improvising lines that often made it into the final cut. His commitment to physical comedy led to many retakes and occasional on-set mishaps, including minor injuries during high-energy chase scenes. Linda Cardellini, who played Velma, also performed many of her own stunts and was involved in shaping Velma's emotional arc, often working closely with the director to balance her nerdy persona with newfound vulnerability. Sarah Michelle Gellar and Freddie Prinze Jr., a real-life couple, were already familiar with the pressures of working together in the public eye. On set, their chemistry translated well to the screen, although Gellar admitted in interviews that filming action scenes in elaborate costumes could be grueling, especially during hot summer shoots. Gellar was heavily involved in choreographing her character's fight scenes, drawing on her experience from Buffy the Vampire Slayer. She worked closely with his stunt coordinators to ensure that Daphne's moves were both stylish and effective, creating a character who could hold her own in a fight while still maintaining the charm and poise the role demanded. There were also some challenges behind the scenes that affected production. At one point, scheduling conflicts caused delays, as key actors had to balance other commitments. Additionally, early test screenings prompted reshoots and edits to adjust the pacing and tone. Warner Brothers wanted to ensure the sequel appealed to a broader family audience, which led to trimming some darker or more complex scenes. These changes were not without controversy within the production team, some of whom believed that a slightly edgier tone might have made the film more appealing to older audiences. The marketing team was involved early in the production process to ensure brand consistency, as merchandise tie-ins and promotional campaigns were already in development. Scooby-Doo 2: Monsters Unleashed presents a narrative that blends mystery, comedy, and action, structured around a classic three-act framework but infused with the sensibilities of a modern family film. The movie builds on the foundations of the first live-action installment, bringing the characters into a more established public role while raising the narrative stakes. The central plot follows Mystery Incorporated as they face a crisis that threatens both their reputation and their unity, triggered by a series of monster attacks tied directly to their past cases. Beneath the surface, the film explores themes of identity, public perception, and personal growth, wrapped in a whodunit adventure filled with hijinks and heartfelt moments. The opening act establishes a confident and celebrated Mystery Incorporated team, now enjoying widespread fame and admiration for their crime-solving prowess. The gang is invited to the unveiling of a new exhibit at the Colsonian Criminology Museum, which features costumes and artifacts from their most notorious past cases. This setting serves as both a tribute to the original animated series and a narrative device to reintroduce old villains who will become central to the conflict. The tone at the outset is playful and bright, reflecting the group's comfort in the spotlight. However, the atmosphere quickly shifts when a new villain, known as the Evil Masked Figure, crashes the event and steals several monster costumes. He then uses a mysterious machine to bring these costumes to life, unleashing chaos across the city. This moment serves as the inciting incident of the film. It not only reintroduces the gang's old adversaries in a more dangerous form, but also sets the stage for the film's central mystery: who is the evil masked figure, and why is he targeting Mystery Incorporated? As monsters begin to terrorize the city, the public turns on the team, accusing them of being frauds or possibly even responsible for the attacks. This loss of public support adds tension to the narrative and forces the gang to confront their own insecurities. Each character is affected differently by the backlash, and these individual struggles help push the plot forward. The first act also lays the groundwork for several character arcs. Fred struggles with losing control of his carefully cultivated image as the team's leader. Daphne, once a damsel in distress, now takes on a more active role in confronting threats and trying to maintain team morale. Velma finds herself wrestling with emotional vulnerability, particularly as she navigates a budding crush on museum curator Patrick Weasley, played by Seth Green. Shaggy and Scooby, the most underestimated members of the team, are driven to prove that they can be real heroes and not just comic relief. These internal tensions mirror the external conflict, making the narrative more personal and emotionally resonant. The second act is where the mystery deepens. The gang begins their investigation, following clues that lead them through a series of misadventures, confrontations with classic monsters, and unexpected twists. They revisit familiar locations from their past, each one tied to an old villain who has now returned in monstrous form. These include the Black Knight Ghost, the Tar Monster, the 10,000-volt Ghost, and the Pterodactyl Ghost. These scenes not only provide action and suspense, but also serve as callbacks for longtime fans of the original cartoon. The middle portion of the film maintains a brisk pace, using a mix of set-piece battles, comedic interludes, and romantic subplots to keep the momentum going. One key narrative device used throughout the second act is misdirection. The audience is led to suspect multiple characters as the potential villain behind the evil masked figure. Red herrings are sprinkled liberally, with Patrick Weasley and journalist Heather Jasperhow positioned as possible suspects. Heather, in particular, plays an antagonistic role in the public sphere, undermining the gang in press conferences and sowing doubt about their competence. Her exaggerated hostility keeps viewers guessing, while her media influence serves as a symbol of how easily public opinion can be manipulated. Meanwhile, Velma's storyline becomes increasingly important. Her relationship with Patrick introduces romantic tension, but also raises questions about trust, identity, and self-worth. Velma is portrayed as highly intelligent but emotionally guarded, and her interactions with Patrick push her out of her comfort zone. This subplot parallels the gang's larger struggle with public perception. Velma is learning how to let someone see her true self, just as the team is fighting to be seen for who they really are beneath their public image. Shaggy and Scooby's arc also gains traction during this section. Determined to prove their worth, they take the lead in several investigative efforts, including a memorable infiltration of the villain's lair. Their antics often veer into slapstick, but the film takes care to show that their courage and loyalty are just as important as brains or brawn. Their journey from comic sidekicks to unlikely heroes adds emotional depth to the second act and prepares the audience for their crucial role in the climax. The narrative reaches a turning point when the team discovers the villain's plan to use the monster-making machine to unleash a citywide attack and permanently destroy Mystery Incorporated's credibility. This revelation raises the stakes significantly and propels the story into its third act. The group briefly splinters under pressure, echoing a common trope in ensemble stories, but ultimately reunites with a renewed sense of purpose. This moment of unity is underscored by their decision to confront the villain not just with brute force, but with intelligence, teamwork, and heart. The climax takes place in the gang's home base, which has been overtaken and transformed into the villain's final staging ground. The third act is packed with action and special effects as the team battles the newly reanimated monsters in a bid to shut down the machine. Each member of the team gets a spotlight moment. Fred faces off against the Black Knight. Daphne uses her martial arts skills in a one-on-one fight. Velma uses her intellect to disable the machine, and Shaggy and Scooby risk their lives to defeat the Tar Monster. The sequence is chaotic but well choreographed, emphasizing cooperation over individual heroics. The big reveal of the villain's identity, Heather Jasperhow, who is actually Jonathan Jacobo, a villain presumed dead, ties the story together thematically. Jacobo's motivation stems from a grudge against the gang and a desire to discredit them publicly. His use of media and monsters as tools of manipulation speaks to the film's underlying commentary on image versus reality. By defeating him, the gang not only stops the physical threat but also restores their reputation and reaffirms their bond as a team. The denouement is lighthearted and celebratory. The gang is exonerated, public faith in them is restored, and they are honored by the city. Velma gains the confidence to be open with Patrick, Fred and Daphne's relationship continues to deepen, and Shaggy and Scooby are finally seen as genuine heroes. The final scenes serve as emotional payoffs to the various character arcs, closing the story on a high note. Scooby-Doo 2: Monsters Unleashed may present itself as a lighthearted, family-friendly adventure with a comedic tone and flamboyant visual style, but beneath the surface lies a surprisingly rich layer of themes and symbolic elements. These underlying currents add emotional and psychological depth to what could have easily been a formulaic sequel. The film uses classic storytelling devices, visual cues, and character arcs to explore ideas of identity, reputation, fear, transformation, and redemption. While aimed primarily at younger audiences, many of these themes also speak to adults, giving the film a broader emotional resonance. One of the central themes of the film is identity, both individual and collective. Throughout the story, each member of Mystery Incorporated is forced to confront how they see themselves versus how they are perceived by others. This idea is first introduced at the Colsonian Criminology Museum, where the gang is celebrated for their past accomplishments. At the same time, they are confronted by their past in the form of the monster costumes on display. These relics are not only visual callbacks to their adventures, but also serve as symbols of their public persona, heroes who always solve the case and save the day. The display freezes them in a particular image, ignoring their growth or individuality. The conflict begins when these costumes are stolen and brought to life. The monsters, once defeated and locked away in history, return in a more terrifying form. Symbolically, this represents the characters' pasts coming back to haunt them, literally and figuratively. It suggests that unresolved issues, whether internal insecurities or external criticisms, will inevitably resurface if not truly confronted. In this way, the monsters become embodiments of self-doubt, public scrutiny, and unresolved trauma, especially when the public begins to question the legitimacy of the gang's accomplishments. Fred's arc is emblematic of this theme. As the de facto leader, he struggles with maintaining a perfect image. When the gang begins to fall out of public favor, Fred becomes visibly shaken, not only because their reputation is under attack, but because his self-worth is tied so closely to external validation. His iconic ascot, often a visual symbol of his leadership, is notably missing in this sequel, subtly reflecting his vulnerability. Fred's journey is about learning to lead with authenticity rather than just confidence and image, and the climax gives him a chance to earn back his status through genuine bravery and humility. Daphne's role in the group shifts more definitively from the stereotypical damsel in distress to an empowered, proactive team member. Her combat skills and take-charge attitude are not just physical expressions of strength, but symbolic of breaking free from limiting labels. Daphne's thematic function revolves around agency. She reclaims her narrative from being the girl who needs saving to someone who does the saving. This shift challenges traditional gender roles often present in earlier incarnations of the franchise and aligns with evolving ideas of female empowerment. Her style and presence are still glamorous, but she is not defined by them, making her an emblem of multidimensional femininity. Velma's arc is perhaps the most emotionally nuanced. Her internal struggle is one of vulnerability and self-acceptance. Though she is intellectually gifted and the analytical core of the team, Velma is visibly uncomfortable with emotional openness, especially when she begins to develop feelings for Patrick Weasley. Her attempts to appear normal or traditionally attractive, such as when she wears a revealing outfit during a date, are both comedic and poignant. They speak to a broader theme of insecurity, particularly the societal pressure to conform to certain standards of beauty and desirability. Velma's eventual realization that she doesn't need to change who she is to be loved becomes one of the film's most empowering messages. It suggests that authenticity is more powerful than assimilation, and that love begins with self-acceptance. Shaggy and Scooby's narrative is perhaps the most overtly symbolic. The duo is often regarded as the comic relief, cowardly, clumsy, and more interested in food than heroics. In this film, they are determined to prove that they are more than just sidekicks. Their transformation from bumbling goofballs into accidental heroes is not only central to the plot, but deeply symbolic of the value of underdogs. Their journey represents the universal human desire to be taken seriously, to be recognized for more than appearances or past behavior. In a way, their arc is about rewriting one's personal narrative, demonstrating that bravery isn't the absence of fear, but action in spite of it. The larger theme of public perception and reputation is explored through the media subplot involving Heather Jasperhow. As a sensationalist reporter who continuously undermines Mystery Incorporated, she embodies the power of media to shape or distort truth. Her relentless attacks on the gang mirror real-world phenomena where public figures can be praised one moment and vilified the next. The gang's battle isn't just with physical monsters, but also with a societal one, the fickleness of fame and the volatility of public opinion. Heather's true identity as Jonathan Jacobo, a disgraced villain from the gang's past, further underlines this idea. It's not just the monsters who return, it's the ghosts of mistakes, misunderstandings, and unresolved failures. Jacobo's elaborate disguise also adds another layer to the theme of hidden identity and deception. Monsters themselves function as complex symbols throughout the film. On the surface, they are traditional antagonists, creepy, chaotic, and threatening. But symbolically, they represent fears made real. The Black Knight ghost symbolizes outdated notions of chivalry and dominance that Fred must overcome. The Tar Monster, a gooey and engulfing creature, represents the kind of self-doubt that can consume a person if not confronted. The 10,000-volt ghost, an electrified specter, may symbolize unpredictability and loss of control, themes that parallel Velma's discomfort in emotionally charged situations. By facing and defeating each monster, the characters symbolically conquer a personal fear or a limitation. Another notable theme is transformation. The monster-making machine serves as a literal and metaphorical engine of change, turning inanimate costumes into living beings. On a metaphorical level, it represents the dangerous potential of technology and the misuse of knowledge. But it also acts as a metaphor for how quickly appearances can change and how something seemingly harmless, like a costume or a label, can be imbued with power and menace depending on context. The machine becomes a device not only of plot propulsion but of philosophical musing, raising questions about what we create and how those creations reflect our desires, fears, and intentions. Friendship and loyalty also form a foundational theme. Despite their individual insecurities, conflicts, and setbacks, the members of Mystery Incorporated ultimately prevail because of their trust in one another. The film emphasizes that unity is their greatest strength. Each character brings something unique to the group: intellect, courage, empathy, intuition, and it's only by working together that they can solve the mystery and restore peace. Scooby-Doo 2: Monsters Unleashed is a film that thrives visually. Its aesthetic choices are bold, dynamic, and deliberately exaggerated to match the tone and spirit of the source material. As a sequel to the first live-action Scooby-Doo film, it was faced with the challenge of maintaining stylistic continuity while also expanding the visual world of the franchise. The result is a visually rich and stylized cinematic experience that blends the vibrant camp of the original Hanna-Barbera cartoons with the possibilities of early 2000s digital technology and live-action production. From set design and color schemes to camera movement and digital effects, every visual element contributes to a heightened, fantastical version of reality that underscores the comedic, mysterious, and sometimes emotional tone of the film. The cinematography of the film, handled by Oliver Wood, embraces a playful and fluid camera style. Wood, who also worked on high-octane action films such as The Bourne Identity, brings a kinetic energy to the camera work. This is most visible during action sequences and monster confrontations, where the camera frequently moves with characters, tilts dynamically during chase scenes, and captures large-scale set pieces with sweeping tracking shots. Unlike gritty handheld aesthetics common in other early 2000s action films, the cinematography here opts for clarity, saturation, and a polished, theatrical presentation. The camera always maintains a clear focus on character expressions and physical comedy, reinforcing the cartoon-inspired tone. Close-ups are often used to highlight exaggerated reactions, a direct homage to animation tropes where facial expressions are key to storytelling. Lighting plays a critical role in establishing the film's tone. Scenes set in the Colsonian Criminology Museum are lit with a glowing amber warmth, conveying a sense of prestige, nostalgia, and familiarity. However, this lighting shifts dramatically during the museum break-in, becoming colder and more shadowed to match the chaos unleashed by the villain. Throughout the film, lighting is used to indicate mood transitions, brighter, more saturated tones for comedic and safe scenes, and darker, more stylized lighting for moments of suspense or villainy. In sequences featuring monsters, particularly the tar monster or the Black Knight ghost, the lighting becomes more high contrast, casting deep shadows that highlight the textures and designs of the creatures. This contrast between warm and cold lighting schemes also subtly reflects the internal states of the characters, moving between comfort and danger, security and uncertainty. The color palette of Scooby-Doo 2 is perhaps one of its most distinctive visual signatures. It embraces bold, saturated colors reminiscent of comic books and cartoons. Each main character has a signature color that is used consistently across their wardrobe and sometimes within the environments they occupy. Fred is often associated with blue and white, signifying his clean-cut persona and leadership. Daphne's palette includes rich purples and pinks, reinforcing her fashion-forward, elegant character. Velma is rooted in oranges and browns, evoking intellect and reliability. Shaggy and Scooby stick to greens and browns, reinforcing their connection to nature and their laid-back, earthy personalities. These color choices not only make each character instantly recognizable, but also maintain visual cohesion throughout scenes. The consistency in costume and color coding allows for clarity even in the most chaotic sequences. It also serves a symbolic function, helping to distinguish the characters' personalities and emotional arcs. Even when their confidence falters, their visual identity remains intact, reinforcing the film's message about staying true to oneself despite external challenges. The monster designs offer another key visual highlight. Instead of reimagining the monsters with modern realism, the film chooses to lean into their cartoonish origins, preserving exaggerated proportions and fantastical designs. This decision is critical to the tone of the film. It creates a world where the absurd feels natural and where horror elements can coexist with slapstick humor. The pterodactyl ghost, for example, is designed with glowing green eyes and leathery wings that harken back to its animated counterpart, but is brought to life with advanced CGI that allows it to move fluidly in 3 dimensions. The tar monster, on the other hand, relies heavily on texture and oozing animation to evoke disgust and threat while remaining within the bounds of a PG-rated aesthetic. The use of CGI in Scooby-Doo 2 is central to the film's visual style, and though some elements show their age by modern standards, at the time of its release the film's effects were ambitious. Scooby-Doo himself, a fully computer-generated character, is integrated into the live-action environment with a surprising degree of fluidity. The animators gave Scooby a broad range of facial expressions and body language, allowing him to participate not just in action but also in emotional beats and comedic moments. His movement remains elastic and exaggerated, like a cartoon come to life, but is grounded enough to interact believably with the human characters. Similarly, the monster effects aim for a balance between realism and stylization, ensuring they remain fun and fantastical rather than truly frightening. Production design plays an equally crucial role in crafting the film's visual identity. The sets are often over-the-top and detailed, filled with hidden jokes, Easter eggs, and references to the broader Scooby-Doo universe. The Colsonian Criminology Museum is a prime example, with display cases and interactive exhibits that visually chronicle the team's history. The exhibit design itself feels like a cross between a natural history museum and a carnival attraction, reinforcing the film's blend of education, nostalgia, and entertainment. Other sets, like the villain's lair or the gang's high-tech headquarters, are designed with thematic intent. The villain's base is filled with dark, angular shapes and glowing neon lights, creating a chaotic and sinister feel. In contrast, the Mystery Incorporated headquarters is sleek, rounded, and brightly lit, symbolizing clarity, unity, and innovation. Camera techniques are varied and often reflect the emotional tone of the scene. During moments of panic or comedic mishap, the film uses quick cuts, zooms, and sometimes distorted lenses to amplify the chaos. In more tender or dramatic moments, like Velma's awkward attempts at flirting or the gang's self-reflective conversations, the camera slows down, often holding longer takes and allowing characters to dominate the frame. This variation in camera rhythm gives the film a dynamic energy, while also providing emotional contrast and pacing. Framing and composition are also used thoughtfully. Group shots are common, emphasizing the team dynamic and reinforcing the message of unity. Even when characters are in conflict or facing personal setbacks, they are often shown within the same frame, suggesting that despite their differences, they remain a cohesive unit. In contrast, villains are typically framed in isolation or from below, creating a visual separation that highlights their opposition to the team and enhances their threatening presence. The soundtrack and sound design of Scooby-Doo 2, Monsters Unleashed play an essential role in shaping the film's mood, energy, and pacing. As a movie that straddles the line between adventure, comedy, and light mystery, the audio elements, both musical and environmental, are critical in grounding the whimsical narrative while heightening moments of suspense, humor, and emotional reflection. In this sequel, the music not only provides an auditory backdrop but also acts as a storytelling tool, amplifying character emotions, marking tonal shifts, and reinforcing the cartoon-inspired roots of the franchise. Meanwhile, the sound design enhances the world-building, creature presence, slapstick antics, and overall atmosphere in ways that allow the film to maintain its animated sensibilities within a live-action framework. Starting with the musical score, composer David Newman returned to the franchise after scoring the first live-action Scooby-Doo film. Newman, known for his work on other energetic family films and animated features, brings a sweeping orchestral and electronic fusion to the movie. His compositions maintain the lightheartedness and campy flair of the original series while adapting it to a more cinematic context. Throughout the movie, Newman's score jumps between suspenseful, mysterious motifs and high-tempo comedic cues, capturing the essence of both the cartoon and the demands of a modern film soundtrack. One of the standout qualities of the score is its ability to transition seamlessly between different emotional registers. When the gang is investigating, the music becomes rhythmically inquisitive, often with plucked strings or staccato woodwinds that evoke classic detective work. During action sequences, such as the gang's chases or monster battles, the score becomes bombastic and layered with fast-paced percussion and brassy flourishes. These musical choices create a sense of excitement while grounding the action in the movie's cartoonish tone. The score knows when to play up the drama and when to pull back into playful irony, mirroring the roller coaster pacing of the narrative. One particularly effective use of music is during the film's numerous monster attack scenes. When the pterodactyl ghost crashes through the museum window, the score builds rapidly with crashing cymbals and a pounding rhythm that mirrors the creature's sudden entrance. As the gang reacts with fear and confusion, the music shifts to a more whimsical, frenetic melody, underscoring the chaos of the moment. This duality, threat and comedy, defines much of the musical tone throughout the film. The music never veers into genuine horror or darkness, instead maintaining an atmosphere of fun and fantasy, appropriate for the film's target audience. Outside of the original score, Scooby-Doo 2, Monsters Unleashed also integrates a lively and eclectic soundtrack of licensed songs that reflect the youthful, rebellious, and quirky nature of the characters and their journey. The movie taps into early 2000s pop-punk, alternative rock, and pop influences, giving it a distinctly MTV generation vibe. Tracks from artists like Simple Plan, The Ramones, Fatboy Slim, and others infuse the film with energy and give scenes a fast-moving, contemporary edge. For example, the song Don't Wanna Think About You by Simple Plan, which served as the film's theme song, plays during the opening credits and sets the tone immediately. Its upbeat, slightly angsty vibe reflects the personalities of Shaggy and Scooby, who often feel like underdogs trying to prove themselves. The song plays again later during the end credits, creating a full-circle musical moment that brackets the narrative. Other musical selections like the B-52's Shiny Happy People or the punk cover of the Scooby-Doo theme song are used in ways that acknowledge the franchise's retro roots while modernizing the sound for younger audiences. The choice to include punk and alternative rock tracks reflects not only a marketing tactic to appeal to early 2000s teens, but also serves to underscore the rebellious, countercultural nature of Mystery Incorporated as a team. Though they often save the day, the gang is treated as misfits, both in the eyes of the public and the authorities. The music reinforces this underdog status and their eventual vindication. It's another way in which sound contributes to character development and narrative arc. Sound design, distinct from music, is another pillar supporting the film's vibrant tone. The use of sound effects in Scooby-Doo 2 leans heavily into its cartoon ancestry. Nearly every physical action, whether a punch, a pratfall, or a sneaky step, has an exaggerated audio cue that heightens the comedic timing. These sound effects aren't realistic in the traditional sense, but that's precisely the point. Instead, they evoke the zany, over-the-top logic of cartoons where a swoosh or bonk can add comedic flair to a scene. The Foley work, which includes footsteps, clothing rustle, and movement-related sounds, is precise and frequently exaggerated, ensuring that even minor physical actions have audio weight. Monster sound effects are also highly stylized. Each creature is given a unique audio profile that reinforces its personality and physicality. The Black Knight Ghost, for example, has metallic clangs and deep, resonant growls that make his presence intimidating, even while participating in humorous chase scenes. The tar monster squelches and oozes with every movement, creating a visceral sense of its gooey texture. The skeleton men chatter with high-pitched bone-clicking noises that make them feel simultaneously silly and creepy. These auditory signatures help differentiate the monsters and make each one memorable in its own right. Environmental soundscapes are carefully crafted as well. Whether it's the echoey halls of the Colsonian Criminology Museum or the eerie ambience of the villain's lair, ambient noise supports the setting and enhances the viewer's immersion. During quieter scenes, such as conversations in the Mystery Incorporated HQ, the background sounds are subtle, electronic humming, typing, or soft ventilation noises, establishing the scene's realism without distracting from the dialogue. In contrast, chaotic scenes like monster attacks or chases are dense with layered sounds that overlap in a controlled cacophony, adding to the excitement. Another important component of the sound design is vocal effects, especially for non-human characters. Scooby-Doo's voice, performed by Neil Fanning, is digitally enhanced in subtle ways to emphasize his cartoonish vocal range. His grunts, giggles, and scared yelps are not only central to his character, but are also used rhythmically in conjunction with music and effects to create humorous beats. Similarly, monster voices are often processed with reverb, pitch modulation, and other distortions to emphasize their supernatural nature. Transitions between scenes often include musical stings or auditory cues that help maintain the film's pacing. For example, after a moment of high tension or action, the film may use a short, descending musical cue to signal a comedic cooldown. Likewise, mystery-solving montages use ascending musical phrases and rhythmic beats that emulate the feeling of discovery and progress. These transitions are rarely silent, reinforcing the idea that music and sound are almost always active participants in the storytelling process. Upon its release in March 2004, Scooby-Doo 2, Monsters Unleashed received a mixed to negative response from critics, while drawing a more forgiving reaction from general audiences. The film followed the commercial success of the first live-action Scooby-Doo movie, which despite poor reviews had performed well at the box office. Expectations were therefore high for the sequel, both in terms of financial performance and creative improvement. However, while the film retained the core cast and expanded the scale of the story, critical reviews largely viewed it as a step sideways, or even backwards, rather than forward. This page explores the immediate and long-term critical reception, audience responses, awards and nominations, controversies, and the broader cultural reaction to the film. Critically, the film was met with disappointment from most professional reviewers. Major publications often cited the film's uneven tone, juvenile humor, and reliance on outdated slapstick as reasons for its lukewarm or negative reviews. One common criticism was that the film didn't evolve or mature the franchise, even slightly, despite the characters being placed in more emotionally complex situations. The screenplay was seen as overly simplistic, filled with gags that failed to land consistently and dialogue that rarely rose above cartoon-level exposition. Many critics argued that while the film tried to be both a loving homage to the original cartoon and a standalone movie, it ended up stuck in a tonal limbo, too silly for adults and at times too convoluted for the youngest viewers. Another point of contention among critics was the film's visual effects and monster design. Although some praised the creativity of resurrecting classic villains from the Scooby-Doo franchise, others felt that the CGI and creature interactions lacked polish and realism. The visual execution was described by some as rushed or overly reliant on digital effects, particularly in scenes that demanded practical interaction between the monsters and the human cast. This criticism was notable because the original cartoon thrived on physical comedy and clever use of suspense, something reviewers felt the sequel substituted with noisy, chaotic action scenes. A few critics, however, offered more charitable interpretations. They highlighted that the film remained true to its roots and respected the legacy of the Scooby-Doo brand. For these reviewers, the exaggerated humor, colorful costumes, and exaggerated performances were not flaws, but stylistic choices aimed at delivering the spirit of the Saturday morning cartoon to a theatrical format. Some praised the ensemble cast, particularly Matthew Lillard's performance as Shaggy, as a redeeming feature of the movie, noting that the cast's chemistry brought authenticity and charm to an otherwise thin plot. Still, even among positive reviews, there was acknowledgement that the film catered primarily to fans of the franchise rather than to new audiences. On aggregate review sites, Scooby-Doo 2: Monsters Unleashed posted unimpressive numbers. On Rotten Tomatoes, the film holds a rating in the low 20% range from critics, indicating a largely negative consensus. Metacritic offered similar results, reflecting a general feeling of mediocrity or disappointment. Audience scores, however, were more forgiving. Many viewers, particularly children and longtime fans of the original cartoon, enjoyed the movie for what it was: a colorful, fast-paced adventure filled with familiar characters and playful monsters. This divide between critical and audience reception would prove significant in the film's ongoing legacy. In terms of box office performance, the film was moderately successful but underperformed compared to its predecessor. It opened at number 1 in United States box office during its first weekend, grossing over $29 million. However, this was a noticeable drop from the opening numbers of the first film, and overall ticket sales ended up significantly lower. With a production budget reportedly between $25 to $30 million and a total worldwide gross around $180 million, the film still turned a profit but fell short of the studio's expectations. This performance ultimately led to the cancellation of a planned third installment, suggesting that while financially viable, the film failed to sustain enough momentum to justify continuing the franchise in its current form. Awards recognition for Scooby-Doo 2: Monsters Unleashed was minimal and primarily lighthearted. The movie received several nominations from youth-oriented or genre-specific award ceremonies. It earned a few nods at the Teen Choice Awards and Kids' Choice Awards, mostly in categories like Favorite Fart Scene, Best Villain, or Favorite Movie Actor. These tongue-in-cheek nominations were reflective of the film's tone and intended audience. While it did not receive any prestigious awards or critical honors, its presence in these fan-driven award shows highlighted the film's appeal to a younger demographic, even as it failed to impress critics. Controversy surrounding the film was minimal, particularly when compared to more adult-oriented features. However, some parental groups raised concerns about the film's occasional innuendo or use of mildly suggestive content, especially involving Velma's character in a few specific scenes. These critiques were rooted in a broader conversation about how family films sometimes include humor or visual cues designed to appeal to older audiences, which may not always be suitable for younger viewers. Still, the controversy was relatively small-scale and did not impact the film's rating or wide release. While the film did not receive widespread backlash, it did provoke some criticism from animation and Scooby-Doo purists, who argued that the live-action format undermined the charm and logic of the original cartoon. Some felt that seeing these characters in human form stripped away the imaginative absurdity of the animated world, replacing it with uncanny CGI and awkward human-monster interactions. Others felt that the tone of the live-action films veered too far into slapstick and spectacle, missing the cleverness and mystery-solving spirit that defined the earliest versions of the series. These concerns, though relatively niche at the time, have gained more traction in retrospective discussions among longtime fans. In contrast, many children and preteens responded positively to the movie upon its release. For this audience, the film's colorful visuals, humorous set pieces, and zany characters offered straightforward entertainment. Home video sales were particularly strong, with the DVD release performing well in rental and sales charts. This secondary market success helped reinforce the idea that the film had value as family entertainment, even if it lacked broader critical acclaim. The movie's frequent airings on cable television networks like Cartoon Network and Nickelodeon further cemented its status as a cult favorite among younger viewers. Despite the initially lukewarm reception of Scooby-Doo 2, Monsters Unleashed upon its release in 2004, the film has carved out a significant and enduring legacy over the years, both within the Scooby-Doo franchise and across the broader spectrum of early 2000s pop culture. While it may not have achieved critical acclaim or blockbuster longevity at the box office, its unique blend of camp, nostalgia, and vibrant visuals contributed to its long-term influence. As time passed, the film found renewed appreciation among fans and media commentators, becoming a key reference point for understanding the evolution of live-action adaptations of animated properties and the transformation of children's entertainment during the early 21st century. The most immediate aspect of the film's legacy is its lasting presence in the Scooby-Doo franchise itself. Although a third installment of the live-action series was ultimately scrapped due to the sequel's underwhelming performance, Scooby-Doo 2 still played a key role in shaping how future adaptations and reinterpretations of the Mystery Inc. gang would unfold. The film embraced a self-referential, often metacomedic tone that future entries, both animated and live-action, would echo in various ways. Later animated features, especially those produced by Warner Brothers, leaned more heavily into genre parody, self-aware humor, and modernized character tropes that aligned closely with the tone established in the live-action films. In fact, the movie helped cement certain personality traits and relationship dynamics that have persisted in modern renditions of the characters. For example, Velma's awkwardness, Daphne's transformation from danger-prone to martial arts-savvy hero, Shaggy's insecurity, and Fred's evolving image from arrogant leader to earnest but flawed protector. These were deepened and made more complex in the live-action films. These characterizations carried over into newer animated series like Scooby-Doo, Mystery Incorporated, and Be Cool, Scooby-Doo, demonstrating the film's foundational influence on the franchise's internal canon. Furthermore, the casting choices, especially Matthew Lillard as Shaggy, had a significant impact on how fans and producers alike viewed character authenticity. Lillard's performance was so well received that he would eventually go on to voice Shaggy in the official animated series and movies following the death of Casey Kasem, the original voice actor. This transition from live-action to animation is rare and speaks to the power of Lillard's portrayal, which bridged generational gaps and connected new audiences with the core identity of the franchise. It was a performance so resonant that it transcended the medium in which it first appeared. In terms of broader cultural influence, Scooby-Doo 2 contributed to the early 2000s wave of live-action adaptations of animated classics. Alongside films like The Flintstones, Alvin and the Chipmunks, and Garfield, it was part of a growing trend of studios attempting to translate beloved cartoon properties into big-screen family entertainment. While the success of these films varied, Scooby-Doo 2 stood out for its unapologetically bright visual style, campy humor, and willingness to lean into the absurdity of its source material rather than distance itself from it. This approach, though divisive at the time, has since been embraced by later adaptations and even seen as visionary in hindsight. Films such as Detective Pikachu and the Lego Batman movie owe a creative debt to Scooby-Doo 2's tone, which proved that irreverence and nostalgia could coexist in successful family entertainment. The film's visual style and creature design also left a lasting impression. Resurrecting classic villains like the Black Knight Ghost, the Pterodactyl Ghost, and the Tar Monster was a choice that deepened the connection between the movie and its animated predecessors. It helped build an intertextual universe that rewarded longtime fans while also introducing iconic monsters to a new generation. This move toward franchise self-celebration, drawing upon internal mythology and fan recognition, is now a staple in reboots and sequels across the industry, from superhero films to animated revivals. Beyond industry trends, the film also enjoyed a surprising afterlife in the realm of internet culture. As the children who first watched the film in 2004 grew up, many of them began revisiting it with a new perspective. Online platforms like YouTube, Reddit, Tumblr, and TikTok became hubs for nostalgic content, meme-making, and fan edits that revived interest in the film. Velma's romantic subplot, Daphne's fight scenes, and Shaggy's emotional growth became the subjects of countless GIFs, analysis threads, and even humorous memes. Shaggy in particular experienced an unexpected resurgence in popularity thanks to a viral meme that reimagined him as a nearly omnipotent being, drawing exaggerated strength from his true power. Although this meme was not directly born from Scooby-Doo 2, the film contributed heavily to the imagery used in such internet humor, especially because of the highly expressive performances and stylized visuals that made screen captures instantly iconic. The legacy of the film also includes its place in discussions around the representation of femininity and nerd identity in popular culture. Velma's portrayal, in particular, has become the focus of extensive commentary over the years. Her attempts to express herself, struggle with romantic feelings, and desire to be seen as more than just the brains, sparked conversations about the evolving role of nerd girls in media. Similarly, Daphne's assertiveness and physical agency contrasted with earlier depictions of her as a passive damsel, inspiring both fans and critics to reassess how female characters were allowed to exist in family adventure narratives. While the film was far from radical in its gender politics, it planted early seeds for a shift in characterization that has since become more mainstream. Another key legacy point is the way the film inspired merchandising, cosplay, and themed events. Although not as expansive as some major franchises, Scooby-Doo 2 generated a wide range of products, from action figures and playsets to apparel and video games. Many of these products centered on the monsters, emphasizing the collectible aspect of the film's villain roster. To this day, fans continue to create custom monster figurines and artwork, often citing this film as their introduction to the full rogues gallery of the Scooby-Doo universe. At conventions and fan gatherings, costumes modeled after the film's wardrobe designs remain a popular choice, especially Velma's leather jumpsuit or Daphne's modernized purple outfit. In education and media studies, the film has even been used in classrooms and scholarly articles as an example of postmodern adaptation. Instructors often point to the film's combination of homage, parody, and commercialization as a case study in how children's media evolved in the early 2000s. Its willingness to poke fun at itself, combined with its earnest nostalgia, made it an ideal artifact for exploring themes like intertextuality, brand evolution, and the commodification of childhood icons. Though not always taken seriously at the time, Scooby-Doo 2 has since become a useful text for analyzing the broader cultural shifts in film and television over the past 2 decades. The audience's reflection and interpretation of Scooby-Doo 2, Monsters Unleashed reveals a layered and dynamic response that has evolved significantly since the film's initial release in 2004. While critics were largely unimpressed by the sequel's execution, many audience members, particularly those who experienced the film in their childhood, have developed a deep emotional attachment to it over time. This page explores how different generations received the movie, how viewers interpreted its content, and how their relationship with the film has changed as they matured. From youthful escapism to nostalgic affection, the spectrum of audience responses to Scooby-Doo 2 is a testament to its unexpected cultural endurance. When the movie was first released, its primary target audience was children and families. For many kids growing up in the early 2000s, Scooby-Doo 2 was more than just a fun night at the movies. It was a rare cinematic event that brought their Saturday morning cartoon heroes into the real world. Seeing the Mystery Inc. gang brought to life with bright costumes, elaborate monster battles, and playful humor was exciting and memorable. Young viewers were often less concerned with the film's critical flaws and more focused on the sense of adventure, camaraderie, and familiarity that the movie offered. Many children appreciated the film's colorful visuals, physical comedy, and exaggerated characters, interpreting it as a lighthearted and thrilling story of teamwork and bravery. One of the most common reflections from now-adult fans is the sense of comfort the film provided during their formative years. For those who were between the ages of 5 and 12 when the movie premiered, it became a staple in their media diet. Repeated viewings on DVD, cable television, or during sleepovers helped embed the film in their personal memories. In this context, the movie became part of their emotional landscape, associated with simpler times, childhood friendships, and the safe fantasy of a group of oddball friends solving spooky mysteries. The movie's emotional accessibility, with characters who faced doubts and grew more confident, also gave young audiences a chance to see their own insecurities mirrored in a humorous and approachable way. Audiences also reflected positively on the character dynamics and individual arcs. Many viewers, particularly girls and young women, connected with Velma's struggle to open up and be confident in who she was. Her journey towards self-acceptance, expressed through awkwardness, vulnerability, and even a romantic interest, made her feel relatable to young audiences who were also navigating identity and self-worth. Similarly, Daphne's transformation into a strong, capable fighter broke away from her historical, damsel-in-distress image, offering a sense of empowerment to those who had grown up watching her in a more passive role. Fans have often interpreted these character shifts as symbolic of broader changes in how female characters could be portrayed, less ornamental, more active, and self-directed. Shaggy and Scooby's arc, revolving around insecurity and self-doubt, resonated with many young boys and introverted viewers. Shaggy's worry that he wasn't a real hero, and Scooby's desire to be taken seriously struck a chord with kids who often felt overshadowed or underestimated. These characters weren't polished or traditionally brave, but their flaws made them more lovable and believable. Their victories were earned not through brute strength or genius, but through loyalty, friendship, and perseverance. Audience interpretations often framed this as a quiet lesson in self-acceptance, that being true to who you are, even if you're a little goofy or scared, can still make you valuable to others. As the original audience grew older, their relationship with the film took on a new dimension. Many began to reflect on it with irony, humor, and affection. Online platforms such as Reddit, Tumblr, and later TikTok allowed fans to share their memories, favorite scenes, and inside jokes with others who had the same formative experience. This participatory culture helped reframe the film as not just a piece of childhood media, but as a touchstone of early 2000s aesthetics and sensibilities. Users would post clips of Daphne's slow-motion karate fight, Velma's now iconic leather jumpsuit scene, or Shaggy's tearful monologue, offering both sincere praise and playful mockery. These discussions were rarely mean-spirited. Instead, they often celebrated the film's campy confidence and its refusal to take itself too seriously. Memes and fan content also played a crucial role in how modern audiences interpret the film. Velma's romantic subplot has been parodied and celebrated in equal measure, with many fans pointing out how bold it was for a character often typecast as the smart girl to be given such emotional complexity. Shaggy's exaggerated expressions and moments of panic have become meme material, reinterpreted as symbols of millennial and Gen Z anxiety. In some cases, this humor has deepened the audience's appreciation for the film, encouraging them to revisit it through a new, more emotionally layered lens. Interestingly, queer audiences have also found meaning in the movie's subtext and characterizations. Velma's discomfort with traditional femininity, her awkwardness around romantic expression, and her androgynous wardrobe have led to interpretations of her as a queer-coded character. Although the film itself never directly addressed Velma's sexuality, viewers, especially those who grew up questioning their own identities, often cite her as an early example of a character who felt different in a way they could relate to. In this sense, the film has become a site of personal reflection and identity exploration for many in the LGBTQ+ community. These interpretations may not have been part of the film's original intent, but they demonstrate how audiences engage with media in complex, personal, and transformative ways. Another key area of audience reflection revolves around nostalgia and the passage of time. For many millennials and Gen Z viewers, Scooby-Doo 2 represents a lost era of children's films, one where bright colors, sincere themes, and earnest storytelling were prioritized over cynicism or hyperrealism. In revisiting the film, these audiences often comment on how fun and unpretentious it feels compared to more modern blockbusters. There's a recognition that while the movie may not be perfect, it is deeply comforting and emotionally sincere. It doesn't attempt to disguise its message or pander to adults with layered subtext. It simply aims to entertain, and in doing so, leaves a genuine emotional imprint. Audiences also reflect on the soundtrack with fondness. The early 2000s pop rock tracks used throughout the film now carry nostalgic weight for many who associate them with car rides, school dances, or discovering music for the first time. The film's use of music to underscore emotional or comedic moments is often remembered as being part of its unique charm. Songs like "You Get What You Give" and "Thank You for Letting Me Be Myself Again" are still tied in many minds to the optimism and carefree spirit the movie encapsulated. One of the most compelling aspects of Scooby-Doo 2, Monsters Unleashed, lies in the growth and transformation of its main characters throughout the film. Unlike many family-oriented adventure movies that focus primarily on plot or spectacle, this sequel places considerable emphasis on the emotional journeys of its central figures. The film's character arcs are crafted to reflect themes of self-acceptance, friendship, courage, and identity, allowing the Mystery Inc. gang to evolve in ways that resonate with audiences of all ages. This page will explore the development of each key character, their motivations, conflicts, and relationships, as well as how their individual stories contribute to the overall narrative. Fred Jones, the self-appointed leader of the gang, begins the film confident and somewhat inflexible in his approach to solving mysteries. Fred's arc centers on learning to embrace change and accept that leadership isn't about controlling every aspect of a situation, but about trust and collaboration. At the beginning of the film, Fred is frustrated by the gang's increasing fame, which puts pressure on them to maintain a spotless image and deliver perfect results. This obsession with appearances blinds him to the deeper issues facing the team. His initial arrogance leads to tension within the group, particularly with Daphne, whose transformation into a capable fighter challenges Fred's traditional notions of leadership and gender roles. Throughout the film, Fred is forced to confront his need for control and learn humility, realizing that his friend's unique strengths are essential to solving the mystery. By the climax, Fred's growth is evident as he encourages cooperation and supports the team's efforts rather than dictating them, demonstrating maturity and emotional intelligence. Daphne Blake undergoes one of the most striking transformations in the film. Traditionally portrayed as the fashion-conscious and often helpless member of the gang, in Scooby-Doo 2 she emerges as a strong, resourceful fighter capable of defending herself and others. Daphne's development is about breaking free from limiting stereotypes and discovering her own agency. Early on, she feels sidelined and underestimated by her friends, particularly Fred, who struggles to accept her new, more assertive persona. Daphne's willingness to train in martial arts and confront danger head-on reflects her desire to be taken seriously and contribute meaningfully to the gang's success. Her journey is also intertwined with a subtle exploration of self-confidence and identity as she balances her traditionally feminine qualities with newfound physical empowerment. The climax showcases Daphne's skills in action, helping to defeat the monsters and save the day, symbolizing her emergence as a fully realized and multidimensional character. Velma Dinkley, the brains of the group, experiences a deeply personal arc focused on vulnerability and emotional expression. Often portrayed as the intelligent but socially awkward member, Velma's storyline in this film introduces a romantic subplot that reveals her insecurities and desire for connection. Throughout the movie, Velma grapples with feelings of loneliness and self-doubt, compounded by her fear that she might be invisible or unworthy of love. Her crush on Fred is awkwardly depicted, adding layers to her character that go beyond mere intellectual prowess. This emotional depth allows viewers to see Velma as a relatable figure who struggles with typical adolescent anxieties about acceptance and identity. Velma's arc culminates in a moment of courage where she openly expresses her feelings, symbolizing her growth in self-confidence. This vulnerability enriches her character and challenges the stereotype of the unemotional nerd, making her more human and accessible to the audience. Shaggy Rogers, paired with his loyal companion Scooby-Doo, is the emotional heart of the film. Shaggy's arc is centered on overcoming fear and learning to embrace his true self. Known for his cowardice and comic relief, Shaggy initially doubts his value to the team, worrying that he lacks the qualities of a real hero. This insecurity is poignantly expressed in several scenes where Shaggy feels overshadowed by the other gang members and the public's expectations. His relationship with Scooby is a source of comfort, but also a mirror reflecting his own vulnerabilities. Throughout the film, Shaggy must confront his fears, and his journey becomes one of empowerment. In the climax, his bravery shines through not because he is fearless, but because he acts despite being afraid. Shaggy's growth is symbolized by his willingness to take risks and stand up for his friends, solidifying his place as a valued member of the gang. Scooby-Doo himself undergoes subtle but important development alongside Shaggy. While primarily serving as comic relief, Scooby is also portrayed as a character with emotional depth and loyalty. His fearfulness contrasts with moments of unexpected courage, reinforcing the theme that true bravery involves facing one's fears rather than the absence of fear. Scooby's interactions with Shaggy provide much of the film's heart and humor, and their bond is depicted as a relationship of mutual support and unconditional friendship. Scooby's journey parallels Shaggy's, and their combined growth helps the gang overcome the monstrous threats they face. The antagonist of the film, the Phantom, also has a nuanced arc that adds complexity to the story. Though primarily a villain driven by revenge and obsession, the Phantom's motivations stem from a desire to reclaim respect and recognition for the original monsters of Crystal Cove. This backstory humanizes the character to some extent, presenting him as more than a one-dimensional villain. His determination and passion, though misguided, underscore themes of identity and acceptance that mirror the protagonist's struggles. The Phantom's arc concludes tragically, serving as a cautionary tale about the dangers of letting bitterness consume one's purpose. Relationships between characters evolve meaningfully throughout the movie. The friendship among the Mystery Inc. gang is tested by external pressures and internal doubts, but ultimately strengthened through their shared experiences. Conflicts between Fred and Daphne highlight the challenge of adapting to change within long-standing relationships, while Velma's quiet vulnerability opens new emotional channels with the group. Shaggy and Scooby's inseparability remains a constant, underscoring the power of loyalty and trust. The characters learn to appreciate each other's differences and accept their own flaws, reinforcing the film's message that diversity within a team is a strength rather than a weakness. Overall, the character development in Scooby-Doo 2, Monsters Unleashed enriches the film's narrative and emotional impact. Each main character is given a clear arc that allows audiences to invest in their growth and relate to their personal struggles. The film balances humor, action, and heartfelt moments through these evolving character dynamics, making the story more than just a series of monster battles. It becomes a tale about friendship, self-discovery, and the courage to be oneself. This focus on character depth contributes to the film's lasting appeal and distinguishes it from other family adventure movies of its time. The costume and set design of Scooby-Doo 2, Monsters Unleashed play a crucial role in establishing the film's tone, character personalities, and the overall atmosphere of the story. These visual elements work together to bring the iconic Mystery Inc. gang and their world into vibrant, tangible reality, blending the familiar cartoon origins with live-action aesthetics. From the carefully crafted outfits of the main characters to the imaginative, eerie sets, the design choices enhance the narrative by visually expressing character traits, thematic elements, and the film's playful balance of humor and suspense. Costume design is a key element in visually defining the characters and supporting their arcs. One of the most notable aspects of the film's costume work is the way it honors the classic designs from the original animated series while adapting them to suit live-action storytelling and contemporary sensibilities. Each member of the Mystery Inc. gang is given a wardrobe that maintains their recognizable color schemes and signature styles, but also incorporates texture, layering, and modern fabric choices to create a more realistic, three-dimensional appearance. Fred Jones's costume is a clear homage to his cartoon counterpart, featuring his iconic orange ascot, blue shirt, and white sweater vest. However, the live-action adaptation adds subtle details such as tailored fits and fabric quality that suggest his role as the group's leader and the most traditional member. His outfit conveys a sense of neatness and orderliness, reinforcing his personality traits of responsibility and control. Throughout the film, Fred's costumes remain consistent, emphasizing his resistance to change and his desire to maintain the status quo within the gang. Daphne Blake's costume evolution is especially significant, reflecting her character development. Early in the film, Daphne appears in vibrant purple dresses and accessories that align with her classic look, symbolizing femininity and charm. As she embraces her new role as a capable fighter, her wardrobe shifts to more practical, yet still stylish outfits, incorporating leather, darker tones, and combat-ready pieces. This transformation in costume design visually underscores Daphne's newfound strength and confidence, signaling her break from the damsel in distress stereotype. Her wardrobe balances fashion and function, highlighting her ability to be both glamorous and tough. Velma Dinkley's costumes stay true to her trademark orange turtleneck sweater, red skirt, and glasses, but with nuanced changes that align with her emotional arc. The fabric choices and fit are slightly softer and more modern, allowing her to appear approachable and relatable. Subtle accessories and makeup shifts throughout the film reflect her growing self-awareness and vulnerability, such as moments where she loosens her sweater or adopts a more casual look. These details contribute to Velma's portrayal as a character who is intelligent, but also learning to embrace her emotions and identity. Shaggy Rogers's costume captures his laid-back, slightly disheveled nature. His loose green shirt, brown pants, and scruffy hair remain consistent with the cartoon image, but are given a lived-in feel that communicates his easygoing personality and reluctance to engage with danger. Scooby-Doo, portrayed through a combination of puppetry and CGI, maintains his familiar brown fur and distinctive black spots, ensuring that the beloved dog remains instantly recognizable. Scooby's expressive eyes and movements add warmth and humor, making him a central figure in the visual storytelling. Beyond the main characters, the film's costume design extends to the monsters, who are a key visual attraction. The design team brought these creatures to life using elaborate prosthetics, animatronics, and costumes that blend horror and humor. The monsters' appearances are exaggerated and colorful, in keeping with the film's playful tone. Each monster reflects its origins from the original cartoon, but with added texture and detail that give them a more tangible and menacing presence. This careful design work creates a sense of continuity with the franchise's legacy while enhancing the spectacle of the live-action format. The set design in Scooby-Doo 2 is equally important in shaping the film's atmosphere. The locations range from quaint small-town streets to eerie mansions and spooky warehouses, each crafted to evoke a specific mood that supports the unfolding mystery. Crystal Cove, the gang's hometown, is depicted as a charming, slightly quirky coastal town with colorful buildings, vintage signage, and cozy interiors. This setting reinforces the nostalgic and approachable tone of the film, inviting viewers into a world that feels both familiar and magical. The haunted mansion and other monster lairs feature Gothic architecture, shadowy corners, and intricate details like cobwebs, old portraits, and flickering candlelight. These sets are designed to immerse the audience in a spooky yet whimsical environment, balancing suspense with accessibility for younger viewers. The contrast between the bright, cheerful town scenes and the dark, foreboding monster locations visually underscores the film's central conflict between the normal world and the supernatural threats. Attention to detail in the sets extends to props and smaller design elements that enrich the storytelling. For example, the gang's iconic van, the Mystery Machine, is meticulously recreated with vibrant paintwork and decals that highlight its countercultural and adventurous spirit. The interior of the van is equally detailed, with gadgets, maps, and personal touches that reflect the characters' personalities and their teamwork. This mobile base is a key visual motif, symbolizing friendship and the journey they undertake together. Lighting design within the sets also plays a role in establishing mood. Brightly lit, warm-toned scenes dominate the daytime and town sequences, conveying safety and community. In contrast, monster encounters and night scenes utilize cooler tones, shadows, and dramatic lighting angles to create tension and mystery. These shifts in lighting and color palette are carefully integrated with the set and costume design to guide audience emotions and enhance narrative pacing. In conclusion, the costume and set design of Scooby-Doo 2, Monsters Unleashed significantly contribute to the film's storytelling, world-building, and character portrayal. The thoughtful adaptation of classic character looks for live action, combined with imaginative monster designs and atmospheric sets, creates a visually rich experience that honors the franchise's roots while appealing to contemporary audiences. These design elements support the film's themes of transformation, friendship, and adventure, making the visual world as engaging and memorable as the characters and story themselves. The dialogue and scriptwriting in Scooby-Doo 2, Monsters Unleashed play a pivotal role in shaping the film's tone, character development, and overall storytelling. As a sequel to a beloved franchise rooted in mystery and humor, the screenplay had the challenge of balancing lighthearted comedy with suspenseful plot progression, all while appealing to a wide audience that includes children, teenagers, and nostalgic adults. The film's script was crafted to honor the spirit of the original cartoon series, characterized by witty exchanges, iconic catchphrases, and clever humor, while introducing a more layered narrative and emotional depth. This page will explore the screenplay's quality, memorable lines, dialogue style, use of humor, exposition, pacing of conversations, and how the script builds tension and emotion. One of the hallmarks of the dialogue is its faithful representation of the core characters' voices, which helps maintain continuity with the original series. Each member of the Mystery Inc. gang is given lines that reflect their personality traits, making their conversations feel natural and true to their identities. Fred's speech often includes confident and sometimes overly earnest lines, reflecting his role as the leader who tries to keep everyone focused. Daphne's dialogue blends charm and sass, especially as her character gains more agency and assertiveness. Velma's lines tend to be intelligent and analytical, peppered with occasional self-deprecating humor that highlights her socially awkward but lovable nature. Shaggy's speech is marked by his laid-back, goofy tone and frequent expressions of fear or hunger, which provide comic relief. Scooby-Doo's unique speech pattern, using playful sounds and catchphrases like "Roo-row," adds an endearing layer of humor and personality. The script uses humor effectively to keep the mood light, even during moments of suspense or danger. Much of the comedy arises from character interactions and the juxtaposition of their personalities. Shaggy and Scooby's constant fear and reluctance contrast with Fred's seriousness and Daphne's newfound toughness, creating amusing dynamics. Slapstick moments and visual gags are complemented by quick-witted dialogue that often breaks tension. For example, Velma's sarcastic remarks and Fred's occasional obliviousness serve as comedic counterpoints that keep the audience engaged without detracting from the story. The humor also serves to make the characters more relatable and endearing, especially to younger viewers. Memorable lines and catchphrases pepper the script, some of which pay homage to the franchise's long history. Phrases like "let's split up," "gang," and "jinkies" appear in ways that feel natural rather than forced, grounding the film in the classic Mystery Inc. lore. These references create a sense of nostalgia for longtime fans while introducing new audiences to the charm of the original series. The script also introduces fresh, humorous lines that became quotable among viewers, adding to the film's cultural footprint. Exposition, a necessary component in mystery storytelling, is handled with relative skill in the screenplay. Instead of relying on lengthy monologues or clunky information dumps, the script uses natural conversations and clues scattered throughout scenes to reveal important plot points. Velma's investigative explanations are often concise and clear, allowing audiences to follow the mystery without confusion. The The script cleverly integrates background details into dialogue, such as historical context about Crystal Cove's monsters or the gang's previous cases, enriching the world building without overwhelming the pacing. The pacing of conversations is carefully balanced to maintain momentum. Dialogue scenes rarely drag, as the script alternates between moments of humor, tension, and action. Conversations often serve dual purposes, advancing the plot while revealing character motivations or deepening relationships. For instance, subtle dialogue exchanges between Fred and Daphne hint at their underlying romantic tension, while Velma's shy remarks toward Fred provide insight into her emotional growth. These layered dialogues add complexity to the characters and keep the audience emotionally invested. Tension and emotion are skillfully built through the script's use of dialogue. Scenes involving the Phantom and the monsters often feature terse, suspenseful exchanges that heighten the stakes. The screenplay contrasts these darker moments with heartfelt conversations among the gang, where themes of friendship, trust, and self-discovery are explored. This emotional layering prevents the film from becoming one-dimensional and gives audiences characters to root for beyond their heroic deeds. The script also employs moments of vulnerability and humor to humanize the characters. Shaggy's fear of monsters and Velma's awkward romantic feelings are presented with honesty and warmth, making their struggles relatable. These moments provide emotional relief and balance the more intense mystery elements. The dialogue's tone shifts fluidly between lightheartedness and seriousness, reflecting the film's dual commitment to entertainment and meaningful storytelling. In conclusion, the dialogue and scriptwriting of Scooby-Doo 2 Monsters Unleashed contribute significantly to the film's appeal and effectiveness. The screenplay successfully blends humor, mystery, character development, and emotional resonance, creating a story that is both fun and engaging. By respecting the original series' voice while adding new layers, the script helps the film stand out as a worthy sequel that appeals to diverse audiences. The memorable lines, natural dialogue, and skillful pacing work together to deliver a cinematic experience that balances nostalgia with fresh storytelling. The marketing and promotion campaign for Scooby-Doo 2, Monsters Unleashed, was a carefully orchestrated effort aimed at capitalizing on the success of the first live-action Scooby-Doo film and expanding the franchise's appeal. The studio behind the movie recognized the challenge of attracting a broad audience that included children, teenagers, families, and longtime fans of the iconic series. As a result, the promotional strategy combined traditional advertising methods with innovative approaches tailored to the mid-2000s entertainment landscape. This page examines the trailers, posters, merchandising, social media campaigns, and unique promotional strategies that help generate buzz and anticipation for the film. Trailers played a central role in the marketing campaign, showcasing the film's blend of comedy, adventure, and supernatural elements. The first official trailer was released several months before the film's premiere, targeting a family audience by highlighting the mystery in gang's return, the new monsters, and the humor that fans expected. The trailer was carefully edited to feature exciting monster sequences alongside lighthearted character moments, ensuring viewers understood the film was both fun and thrilling. Teasers emphasized the sequel's larger scale and improved special effects compared to the original movie, aiming to attract fans who enjoyed the first film as well as new viewers. Posters and print advertisements were designed to be eye-catching and instantly recognizable. The main theatrical poster featured the entire gang, standing confidently with Scooby-Doo front and center, surrounded by the menacing monsters that would appear in the film. The use of bright colors contrasted with the darker, eerie background to visually communicate the film's mix of humor and mystery. The tagline, "Monsters Unleashed," was prominently displayed, reinforcing the central conflict and hinting at the action-packed nature of the story. Promotional materials also included character-specific posters that focused on individual members of the gang, allowing fans to connect with their favorite characters and encouraging a sense of loyalty. Merchandising was another key component of the film's promotional efforts. The Scooby-Doo brand had a long history of successful merchandise tied to television shows, movies, and toys, and Monsters Unleashed continued this tradition. A wide range of products was released, including action figures of the Mystery Inc. gang and the movie's monsters, clothing lines featuring character images and logos, puzzles, board games, and school supplies. These items were strategically marketed toward children and families, often sold in conjunction with the movie's release in retail stores. Tie-ins with fast food chains included collectible toys in kids' meals, further expanding the film's reach and visibility. Social media marketing, though still in its early stages in 2004, was utilized to connect with younger audiences. Official websites for the film featured interactive games, downloadable wallpapers, character bios, and sneak peeks to engage fans online. These websites often included contests and opportunities for visitors to submit fan art or participate in quizzes, creating a sense of community and anticipation. Email newsletters and partnerships with popular entertainment portals helped spread information about the film and build excitement. While social media platforms like Facebook and Twitter were not yet dominant, forums and fan sites played a role in grassroots promotion, with enthusiastic fans sharing trailers, images, and news. Unique and innovative promotional strategies were also employed to differentiate Scooby-Doo 2 from other family films at the time. One notable approach was cross-promotion with theme parks and family entertainment venues. Special events and meet-and-greets featured actors from the film or characters in costume, allowing fans to experience the world of Scooby-Doo firsthand. These experiential marketing efforts helped deepen audience engagement and encouraged word-of-mouth promotion. Additionally, the film was promoted on television through commercials aired during popular children's programming blocks, leveraging the existing audience's interests. The marketing campaign also emphasized the movie's humor and mystery elements to reassure fans that the sequel retained the charm of the original series. Trailers and promotional clips highlighted comedic interactions between Shaggy and Scooby-Doo, as well as suspenseful scenes featuring the Phantom and other monsters. This balanced approach helped the film appeal to different segments of the audience, from kids drawn to the humor and creatures to older viewers interested in the mystery and nostalgia. Critically, the campaign sought to position Scooby-Doo 2 as a must-see summer event for families. Timing the release to the early summer season allowed the studio to tap into school vacations and holiday crowds, maximizing box office potential. Promotional partners included toy manufacturers, fast food chains, and retailers, creating a multi-channel marketing push that reached consumers in various contexts. Despite the extensive marketing efforts, the film faced competition from other high-profile releases during the summer of 2004, which may have impacted its overall commercial success. However, the promotional campaign succeeded in keeping the Scooby-Doo brand relevant and visible in a crowded marketplace, reinforcing its status as a beloved franchise. The use of diverse marketing tactics, from traditional advertising to interactive online content and experiential events, demonstrated a forward-thinking approach to film promotion during a transitional period in the entertainment industry. In summary, the marketing and promotion of Scooby-Doo 2, Monsters Unleashed was a comprehensive, multifaceted campaign that leveraged a combination of trailers, posters, merchandise, and early digital engagement to create anticipation and connect with a broad audience. By emphasizing the film's mix of humor, mystery, and action, the campaign maintained the franchise's legacy while appealing to new generations of fans. These strategies not only supported the film's theatrical release, but also helped sustain interest in the Scooby-Doo brand beyond the movie itself. Scooby-Doo 2: Monsters Unleashed stands as a notable sequel within the realm of live-action adaptations of beloved animated series. To fully appreciate its place in cinema and the franchise, it is important to compare it to several related works: the original Scooby-Doo animated series, the first live-action Scooby-Doo movie, other films in the mystery/comedy genre, and comparable works by the film's director. Through this comparative analysis, we can better understand the differences in tone, style, storytelling, and overall execution that distinguish Monsters Unleashed and define its legacy. Beginning with the original animated Scooby-Doo series, which first aired in 1969, the core elements of the franchise remain central to Monsters Unleashed. The familiar characters, Fred, Daphne, Velma, Shaggy, and Scooby, along with their mission to solve mysteries involving seemingly supernatural creatures, provide the foundation for both. However, while the original series emphasized episodic storytelling with self-contained mysteries, the film adopts a feature-length narrative structure with a more complex overarching plot involving a phantom villain and an ensemble of classic monsters. This shift reflects the need for a cinematic experience that can sustain audience engagement for a longer duration while incorporating character arcs and thematic depth. Stylistically, the animated series uses bright, flat colors and exaggerated expressions that suit its lighthearted tone, whereas the live-action film opts for a mix of vibrant yet realistic visuals combined with computer-generated effects to bring the monsters and characters to life in a physical space. Compared to the first live-action Scooby-Doo film released in 2002, Monsters Unleashed raises the stakes by presenting a bigger, more elaborate mystery with a wider variety of monsters. The sequel builds on the foundation of the original success by expanding the scope of the story and improving the special effects quality, which was noted as a point of criticism in the first film. In terms of tone, both films blend comedy and mystery, but the sequel leans slightly more into suspense and darker themes while maintaining the franchise's trademark humor. Character development is more pronounced in Monsters Unleashed, with Daphne's transformation into a capable fighter and Velma's romantic subplot receiving more attention. This evolution in storytelling marks an attempt to give the characters greater depth and appeal to a broader audience beyond simple comedic mystery. When examining other films in the mystery/comedy genre aimed at family audiences, Scooby-Doo 2 shares similarities with movies such as Harry Potter and Goosebumps, which also blend supernatural elements with humor and coming-of-age themes. However, Scooby-Doo 2 differentiates itself through its overt campiness and meta-humor, often poking fun at the conventions of monster movies and detective stories. Unlike the darker, more serious tone of Harry Potter, the Scooby-Doo sequel embraces a playful, self-aware style that encourages audiences to enjoy the absurdity alongside the mystery. Its approach aligns more closely with Goosebumps, which balances spooky thrills with comedic moments designed to be accessible to younger viewers. This tonal difference highlights the film's dedication to maintaining the franchise's family-friendly identity. In comparison to other works by director Raja Gosnell, who also helmed the first Scooby-Doo film, Monsters Unleashed shows a consistency in directorial style characterized by fast pacing, emphasis on humor, and effective use of special effects for creature design. Gosnell's background in directing comedies and family films is evident in the way he balances slapstick humor with narrative momentum. However, the sequel demonstrates a more confident use of visual effects and ensemble casting, suggesting growth in Gosnell's filmmaking approach between the two movies. Compared to his other films such as Home Alone 3 and Kevin Can Wait, the Scooby-Doo movies showcase a heavier reliance on visual spectacle and fantasy elements, while still preserving comedic timing. An important point of comparison lies in how Scooby-Doo 2 handles character dynamics and story complexity relative to earlier adaptations. Many previous incarnations of Scooby-Doo, including animated spin-offs and direct-to-video films, have tended to follow simple mystery formulas without deep character exploration. Monsters Unleashed distinguishes itself by integrating character arcs, such as Daphne's empowerment and Velma's romantic hesitations, thus providing a richer emotional experience. This complexity aligns with early 2000s trends in family entertainment, where audiences began expecting layered storytelling even in films aimed at children. Technically, the film's integration of live-action performances with computer-generated monsters was more advanced than in the first movie, providing a more seamless and immersive experience. This technological improvement placed Monsters Unleashed ahead of many similar adaptations of the era that struggled with convincing special effects. The design of the monsters also drew directly from the original cartoon series, creating visual continuity for fans, while enhancing their presence with textured, three-dimensional effects. However, while the film received praise for its improvements, some critics and fans noted that the script and humor occasionally relied too heavily on cliches and predictable plot devices common in franchise sequels. Compared to the original animated series' charm and simplicity, the film sometimes felt weighed down by its attempt to appeal to multiple audiences simultaneously. This balancing act between catering to nostalgic adults and entertaining younger viewers is a common challenge for adaptations, and Monsters Unleashed illustrates both the benefits and limitations of this approach. In summary, Scooby-Doo 2, Monsters Unleashed stands as a significant evolution from its source material and predecessor, combining enhanced special effects, deeper character development, and a more ambitious plot. When compared to similar genre films and director Raja Gosnell's other works, it demonstrates a blend of consistency and growth, balancing humor and mystery with family-friendly appeal. While it embraces the franchise's campy roots, the film also reflects early 2000s trends toward more complex storytelling in children's cinema. Its legacy is shaped by this interplay between honoring tradition and pushing creative boundaries, making it a noteworthy entry in the Scooby-Doo canon and the live-action adaptation genre.